Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Cousineau. This is the office hour for Oregon State University PDC-PRO Fall 2024. This is call number 7 already, and the next lesson is lesson 7, Local Ecology and Site Cross-Section, which are due next Monday, January 27th at 9 a.m. Pacific. All right, so we're just waiting to see if anyone will show up. I don't think I can pause recording here. Okay, I'm going to give a little bit of an overview. So, yes, so this is the local ecology and site cross-section. The lessons grades are distributed across the local ecology survey, which is 4 points, and the section view 10 points for a total of 14 points. So it's a relatively small points-wise assignment in the course, but it has some very important elements. So some of the aspects are quite detailed. So I've gone through here in the agenda to just indicate some of that. So assignment 14 is the local ecology survey. It's pretty straightforward. Just fill in the template. There's a couple of different slides. So if I go back over here, which you can't see, let me see. I do share. Okay. Okay, so we're going to share over here. Oh, there we go. Back up. Oops, site water flow. We're past that now. So maps, that was last week. Okay, so this is your ecology survey. So it looks like there's quite a bit of elements, quite a few elements here, and there are. A lot of it is just going to be choosing species, preferably native ones, to represent your own local ecology. Now, as indicated here below, you are not going to have, unless you have a very large site that you've already done some active restoration on or someone else has, you are very unlikely to have all of these successional stages. So there's a disturbance stage, there's where some stuff starts growing back, so shrubs, there's young forest, and then what we call a climax ecology. Not all sites are going to necessarily return to forest. In fact, very few will, especially in Southern California here. You see a lot more, like chaparral is basically where succession starts to stall out simply because of water and nutrient limitations. So you could look to, like, historically, where a lot of it was actually oak woodland, and now it's been changed over to more of a chaparral type ecology. So you can choose how to represent that based on your own site and based on what you find during your exploration, depending on your specific site, what you know to be the ecological history. If you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer, help guide you. But really, it's like pick a direction, go with that. There's often a site or an ecology can have multiple different directions that it could go in. You could succeed all the way back just to grassland. You could succeed to oak woodland, to a riparian forest, or a mix of those on a specific site. So this is a very simplified overview of what you might expect to find. And then the creators of the course have chosen to highlight bird species because they're kind of a mid-range and most trophic levels. So you can highlight 5 native bird species. So really want to focus on natives here, wherever and whenever possible. They don't necessarily have to be found on your site, especially if you've got a high disturbance site. Most of those won't be. But do try to find some that are quite emblematic, and even endemic, like only found in your area. So that can be fun. You just find out, just kind of fill in the blanks about their ecology and their natural history. Okay, and then a local food chain. Now this is very much like choose your own adventure. So do choose some particular individual species. So we don't want to see like just, bacteria as producer or plant, primary consumer, or insects. You want to get like really find out something about a particular species and a particular example of a food chain, recognizing that there really isn't such thing as a food chain. They're all really food webs, which could get like honestly complex to illustrate here. And then you want to just choose some species. Here you could be a little bit more general. You could have something like actinomycetes fungi, in general, earthworms, something like. I don't mind if you're a little bit more general in the decomposers, because really the soil biology aspect is so diverse. you're very arbitrary in choosing individual species for those. Whereas with the other trophic levels, you're generally more appropriate to be choosing a particular species. Okay. And then you want to identify where, so example of food chain identified on an insert here at the stage of succession. So just note that. Okay, and then you've got a SWOT analysis. Any questions for me? Okay, and then the second section of this, the second assignment of this lesson is your site cross-section. I think the template is pretty supportive, self-explanatory here. Do look to the examples to see what other students have done in the past. So your first image here is going to be a satellite image of your site. So this is from overhead. So just like this one, this is basically the base map with that aerial view. And then what you want to do is you want to choose a line. Now, there's a number of examples here how you might choose that line. If it's going to be from lowest to highest elevation or vice versa, it might be through the main occupation area of your property. It might just be highlighting a particular feature that has a lot of different aspects on it. Try to strike a line that does have a lot of variety or has some at least like an interesting story that you can tell why you chose that line. And then indicate your you either use A and B, or you could do multiple lines and then do like A prime, and then B prime, for instance, if you want to do sort of two cross sections perpendicular to one another, or to show different aspects. Do just pick one to start with and focus on doing that really well, rather than trying to capture everything with say with multiple lines. So really pick one and then focus on that, get that nailed down, and then do another one if you still have time and inclination to do that. Because remember, in the course, we're really trying to demonstrate that you've learned the principle and that technique, not so much that you have completely illustrated what's going on with your particular property or your site. Okay, here is where it's really important that you've got your scale bar nailed down, your map information. So all of these elements are filled out. Now, if you're pulling them forward from a previous section of the course, double check that you've actually filled these out and you've got the units of measurement properly indicated, that your scale bar is actually accurate. Your map information is all filled out. I do notice that as a grader, I can get a little bit lax as I'm marking sections later into the course because I'm focusing more on, for instance, on your site water analysis, on your soil analysis, stuff like that. And sometimes just some of those little details slip through. Here's where they are specifically marked in the rubric that these aspects are included. So make sure that you do have this correctly done. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. You're welcome to do that. Okay, and then don't forget your legend, however you want to arrange that. If you want to do your legend on the side, your image here, like this person has done, that's fine. Okay, and then your site cross-section, your cross-section diagram. So you'll see it named a couple of things. On the rubric, it's called your section view. It's your site cross-section, the same thing. What you're doing is you're showing us a picture of what that line would look like if you took a slice through your property. So there's all these different elements that you're going to need to label. So definitely the height of any of these objects that fall on that line. So that could be buildings like pump houses, storage, a house, major trees. If there's a shrubby area, what the height of those shrubs are, kind of on average is okay if they're all about the same. Anything like that, fencing, that's a place to indicate both what that thing is and its height. So you can see here this person, so they have it labeled by the object, and also then there's a scale bar, or not a scale, an axis scale on the left-hand side of that. So it's basically like a graph. So just make sure that you've got all of those elements labeled. You've got some indicative images along that line to show what it actually looks like in real life. Now, there's a few more things which just keep an eye out for. There's a succession stage, which of course goes back to your ecology survey, whether that's late stage, disturbed, And then here's, what do they call this? Oh, they call this a liminal, so mature trees and mowed lawn. So that's kind of an in-between. So describe what's going on there in terms of succession, and then you're going to want to indicate what the microclimate is along that line. Again, your map information, you're graded on all of this, so just double check that that's all correct, especially because you might be putting that into a different layout or a different format. Okay. And then anything that falls here, oh, here we go, that's near that line that kind of influences these elements, but isn't actually directly on the line. There's a couple of different ways you can treat that, and I've seen students do it differently. So like here, they've put the ones that are actually on the line in color, and then anything that falls off of that line are in gray. Again, here they did a darker image outline, and then the images in the background are quite a bit lighter. So just choose an aesthetic that appeals to you. Oh, here's another one. Just look at these and see like kind of what suits your site, what suits your particular aesthetic, what you want it to look like. Now this one here is quite interesting. They only had a balcony, so a lot of people will use like a person for scale. So this is kind of an interesting thing if you've got a very small site, how you could treat it a little bit more creatively. But I don't have a lot of students with sites that are quite that small. Certainly not in this cohort. So, okay. Now here is essentially just an element slide. So this is a resource that you can use. You can use this slide as your actual template if you want, if it suits your purposes. So here, in this case, that's what this person did. Or you can copy and paste the elements that are going to work for you, bring them back to this previous slide, and then go ahead. So whichever you want to do, just delete the slide that you don't end up using. If you're looking for a grid, there's some examples of grids here. You can also Google search. I usually use like grid PNG, and then that'll give you a PNG file. You don't want a JPEG file, because a JPEG is going to be a rasterized image. You want a PNG which shows like illustrations much more clearly. So it's much better for like line illustrations. So look for something like a grid PNG. If you have a paid Canvas account, you can also create your own grids. I can't remember. I think it's called Clear Grid is the integrated app. So you can create a grid of your own, kind of your own size. Just something to make this graph here, and then whatever you don't use, just highlight, and then you can use this tool to crop it out, which I'm sure you're familiar with by now. Okay, another SWOT analysis, and you are done. Okay, so that is going to be lesson 7, and it is 1:42. So I don't have anyone popping in, so I turn off at 1:45 if I don't have anyone show up, but we did get a little bit of an overview. If you are watching this and you're still working in soil map and tests, let me see. Yeah, soil map and tests is the only one for that. Yeah. I always forget that there's usually 2 sections, but this is just one. So your assignment 13, I didn't do an overview of this lesson. But I think most of you are getting it. If you have any questions, please reach out and let me know. I think it's all pretty straightforward. Lots of examples here to choose from. And then there's your 3 analyses. Yes, no matter how small your site is or how similar you think they all are going to be, do 3 separate soil tests. It's worth the practice, and sometimes it's really interesting to see how different things might be. Even within the same small site. So, okay, that's all pretty straightforward. I think just kind of fill in the blanks. All right. Well, I would say, are there any questions? It looks like they are not. Okay. I'm not sure if this time is working out for everyone. I'm not. So I would invite you, if you're watching the replay, to go ahead and shoot me an email. If you're finding that it's not, if that's why, or if it's just kind of post-break that you're feeling that the office hours aren't useful. If there's another way that I can support you, please let me know. Okay, I'm going to shut down, and looking forward to seeing your assignments coming in next week. All right, good work, everybody. We'll see you soon.